Look at this photo. An entire house, completely wiped off the map. Yet, the basement stairs are still standing there like nothing happened. This isn't some miracle. It's just pure physics and relentless engineering doing their job. How does an underground bunker handle winds that literally tear steel apart? The secret lies in how the soil itself reacts under pressure. Back in 2012, the Millers bought their dream home in Moore, Oklahoma. But they had no idea what was waiting for them right under their lawn. Hey everyone, I'm your host, and today we're digging deep into the engineering behind underground storm shelters. Most people think of a basement as just a damp, creepy storage room. But the earth around it actually acts as the ultimate shield against tornadoes. When those crazy winds hit walls above ground, they bend them until they snap. But below ground level, the wind's destructive force can't even touch you. The surrounding soil distributes that massive lateral pressure evenly across the concrete walls. Think of the earth as a heavy-duty natural shock absorber. It soaks up the energy that would easily shred any brick wall above ground. Your underground shelter is basically designed to be bulletproof. If you think this is wild, wait until you see what I found out about aerodynamics. Hit subscribe so you don't miss our next videos. Most builders only focus on compression strength. And sure, concrete is amazing at holding up weight from above. But if you try to pull it apart, it snaps like a dry twig. And that is exactly where standard houses fail when a tornado hits. Builders don't realize the real threat comes from a direction they'd least expect. On May 20th, 2013, the sky over Moore began to turn. Suddenly, the sky went completely green. The Millers heard the sirens wailing and bolted for their basement shelter. Outside, the tornado was growing into an absolute monster. People think tornadoes just crush houses from above. But the real culprit is aerodynamic lift. You see, a house roof acts exactly like an airplane wing. As the wind speeds up over the roof, the external air pressure plummets. But the air pressure inside the house remains normal. That massive pressure difference creates an upward force, lifting the roof right off. Once the roof is ripped away, the walls lose their main support. And the wooden frame collapses like a house of cards. Standard framing nails just slide right out of the wood. The whole house disintegrates in seconds. It's a rapid structural chain reaction. But there's a crucial construction detail most people miss. When winds top 200 miles per hour, this detail decides your fate. I'm talking about anchor bolts that lock the wooden frame directly to the concrete. They are the only things keeping the house from taking off like a plane. When was the last time you checked your house foundation? Keep this detail in mind. Without these bolts, your house is literally just resting on the ground. And gravity alone isn't going to save you from an EF5 tornado. As the tornado closed in on the Millers' home, the noise became deafening. The Millers could feel the ground shaking violently beneath them. They knew their only hope of surviving was that concrete box. The atmospheric pressure outside was dropping fast. The vacuum was trying to suck the air right out of the basement, but that heavy steel door held the seal perfectly. The subterranean walls were taking a beating from all directions. The surrounding earth pushed back, keeping them locked in place, while the vacuum above tried to rip the concrete lid off. Balancing these extreme forces is what keeps you alive. At 3:17 p.m., the tornado took the house head-on. The upper structure was shredded like paper. The walls collapsed instantly under the sheer force of the wind. The wind sheared right through the main support beams. If you've ever survived a major storm, share your story in the comments. Your experience could save someone's life. Deep underground, the Millers heard their entire world being torn apart right above them. The house was gone, leaving only the concrete lid exposed to the sky. In that moment, the Millers prayed that concrete ceiling wouldn't give way. If that concrete cover cracked, they were done for. Unreinforced concrete is incredibly weak when it's pulled or bent. It can support tons of weight, but tension will snap it instantly. The soil on the sides keeps the walls from buckling inward. It acts as a natural brace against the crushing forces. But the shelter's roof slab needs a completely different kind of muscle. Concrete has a fatal weakness under tension. If the steel rebar isn't placed correctly, the vacuum will pull the ceiling down on you. That steel has to be laid exactly where the tension is highest. Put it in the wrong spot, and the concrete will crack and collapse. Fortunately, the Millers' shelter was built to the highest engineering standards. The ceiling was reinforced with a double grid of high-strength steel rebar. This steel grid absorbed the upward tension from the tornado's vacuum. Even with surface hairline cracks, the concrete slab held together. Outside, the wind was throwing heavy debris against the steel door. The locking mechanism was holding back thousands of pounds of pressure. But the heavy anchors inside the concrete frame kept the door from blowing in. Look closely at this. If your door got blocked, could you get out? Imagine the panic. The Millers listened to debris slamming into the concrete lid above. Parts of the house were piling on top of their shield, but their underground bunker did its job perfectly. The surrounding soil deflected the destructive energy around the shelter. Not a single piece of debris pierced the concrete wall. This survival story shows why structural rigidity is so important. The shelter is engineered to be a rigid, crush-proof box. Even under extreme winds, the structure doesn't warp or budge. And that is exactly what keeps the people inside alive. But the real challenge begins after the storm passes. As the tornado moved off, a terrifying silence fell over the area. The Millers waited, making sure it was safe to move. When they pushed the steel door open and looked up, the house was completely gone. There wasn't a single wall left standing on their lot. Only the concrete stairs and the shelter lid remained. That underground shelter saved the entire family. Without it, they would have been swept away by the winds. This real-life survival story is why structural prep is worth every penny. But the peace of mind it gives your family is priceless. FEMA statistics back this up. These shelters offer reliable protection in the worst-case scenarios. Testing facilities simulate debris hitting the shelter at extreme speeds. A flying 2x4 in a tornado acts just like a military missile. There's a simple $500 tool that prevents you from getting trapped under your own collapsed house. Let me show you what it is. It's a simple hydraulic bottle jack. A lot of people survive the tornado itself only to get trapped in their shelter. The debris from the collapsed house blocks the door. Without help, it could take days for rescue crews to find you. But with a bottle jack, you can lift tons of debris out of the way. This simple tool ensures you can always get out. It's a lifesaver that very few people think to pack. Safe engineering also focuses on which way the door swings. Doors that open inward are always the safest option. They prevent piled-up debris from trapping you inside. If the door opens outward, the debris blocks you in like a lock. You need to make sure your shelter's door is built this way. Have you checked which way your shelter door opens? You should do that today. A solid door has to resist being pierced by heavy flying objects. Wind-blown wood beams can turn into deadly spears. They punch right through brick and standard garage doors. But a heavy steel plate absorbs and spreads the impact energy, keeping the family safe inside the shelter. This is the result of decades of materials engineering. The Millers knew they couldn't cut corners on safety. Moore was eventually rebuilt, and life slowly returned to normal. But now, underground shelters are a standard part of the town. Almost every home here has a certified shelter in the backyard. The community's mindset changed completely after that disaster. They know nature doesn't care about poor building standards. When the next storm rolls in, they'll be ready. Being prepared gives you the calm you need to face the danger. Investing in a good shelter is investing in your family's future. Rebuilding the Millers' home took over a year of hard work. But their number one priority was beefing up the concrete foundation. They wanted to be absolutely sure their new home was anchored down. They used thicker anchor bolts and spaced them much closer together. This creates a rock-solid connection that high winds can't rip apart. Now, the house and its foundation act as one solid unit. This level of engineering is what makes living in storm-prone areas possible. Concrete and steel proved to be the ultimate lifesavers. What the Millers went through taught the whole community a lesson. During the rebuild, they realized the basement was the only reason they survived. If they had stayed on the main floor, they wouldn't have made it. That realization inspired them to help their neighbors build shelters too. They knew that a prepared community is a strong community. Today, This town has the highest rate of underground shelters in the state, becoming a national model for resilience and engineering. Keeping our loved ones safe is the most important job we have. Make sure your home meets basic storm safety standards. Inspect your foundation and plan a proper shelter. The line between being prepared and facing tragedy is all about action. Now that you know how basements survive tornadoes, click the video on your screen to see how modern buildings withstand massive earthquakes. Don't wait until tomorrow to secure your home. Act today. Because the earth doesn't give warnings before it strikes.